So last time I showed the Andy rig. There are other ones out there. Some of them are not just on that one website. There's several out there. I should have just opened up. One of them is called Mary, and people have used this one before. Character rig Maya. And this is another rig you could use. This one comes with a lot more stuff than just the character itself. It comes with like shelves and scripts and other things too. So there's actually like instructions on how to get this one set up. So I didn't load the shelves in on this one, but there's the rig. So again, you'll find a lot of these have the same kind of thing. It's just a matter of going through and figuring out where all the controls are, so that you can control the character very easily. Okay, one of the ones, it's got to be on the shelf stuff, is her eyes don't open. So somewhere there is a control that opens her eyes, and I just don't have it right there. So I'm just going to stick with the Andy one for this. Now when we do our next set of assignments, we're going to be doing poses, we're going to be doing a walk cycle, we'll be doing an animation, and then a pickup assignments. We have basically 4 character animation things we'll be doing within the next 4 or 5 weeks. I'm just going to go here to this and then to that. I don't know why that's taking so long to open up. In order to do all of those, we have to set up this character so that... What? Is that Andy? We have to set up the character so that they're ready to render out for each one of our files. If it's like the past classes, then some of you will skip this lecture and go on to the other one, and that will cause you extra work later. And if you're fine doing extra work, then that's up to you. Okay. This is the reason that we have to set up some of the stuff, is that Andy is actually, like I showed before, is a 2008 Maya. So some of the stuff is not going to convert and not going to look good in 2018 Maya. So when we add stuff like lights and cameras and start creating a little environment, you'll see what Andy looks like. So that's how Andy looks right out of the box. Okay, now every character you get is going to have something different. Okay, we're using Arnold. All of them are basically whoever created them, that's what they used. So we have to go through and do some basic setup on Andy. So one of the things we have to do is retexture the Andy rig. Now there's a simple, straightforward way to do this. Inside of the Hypershade, which is this guy, these are all the materials that go into making Andy who Andy is. And just so you can see that's Andy's clothing structure. Now we don't have to go into that much detail with it. We are going to keep it super simple. The reason that it's so complex is because of all the different outfits that Andy has. Each one of those lines is basically a different outfit. Okay. So what we can do is I'm just going to turn off the reference here. And again, all rigs are going to be different in how they're set up. Andy, I know how Andy is set up, so that's the one I'm going to use first. I'm going to assign the Arnold material to her. So this will be Andy's skin. I'm going to go to the color map. I'm going to go to File, and then I will find Andy's skin. Now with this one specifically, the skin and the clothing are all on one file. So whichever file I grab, that's the one that's going to have all the information kind of locked into it once it loads. The Homer rig, he is no textures at all, so it's all just coloring. So it's basically just assigning materials and then changing colors, assigning materials and changing colors. So Andy loaded up. If I go to Boy Smiley right here, this will get me this outfit on Andy. If I go to Boy Stripes, it'll get me that outfit on Andy. If I go to Girl Skull, it'll get me that outfit. Okay? So you could even take these pictures into Photoshop, replace one of these things or change one of the colors, whatever you want, if you are so inclined. Like if you want your face there instead of a skull, you can definitely do that. So I'm just going to pick the skull one. And I'm also going to go through, I'm not going to delete any history on any of this or freeze any transforms. I'm just going to leave everything as is. I'm going to take off my specularity, take off my roughness, and even take off my specular color just to be safe. Because what I want to make sure is that my Andy isn't reflective, because it'll be reflective over the entire thing. Okay? So that gets me the skin part done. Also the shoes are done. And then I just have some other parts here. So like, let's say the hair. If I look at what the hair is set up to, it's just a brown color. That's all it is. So if I assign a new material to this, and I go to my AI standard surface, Andy hair, I can give it whatever color I want, obviously. I don't have to stick with just brown. And it's white, but I think when it renders, it should be brown. Yep. And then you can see the reflections on there, so I'm going to pull the weight of the reflections off. You know, a little bit is fine, but I don't want it to be, you know, a lot. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, some of these are going to be more difficult to see. Like on the eye itself, there is this part, which is a transparent part that goes on top of the iris. And then there's the white of the eye. And then there's the pupil, which obviously I have to go like disgustingly into the eye to get. And then there's also, sorry, the iris. And then there's the pupil that I have to grab as well. Okay? So all of these things I'm just going to assign. So I'm just going to make a new material for each one. And the pupil. I'm going to make it black. I can give this one a little bit of, you know, specularity to it. That's fine. This one here, if I just gave this a flat color, it would come out as a flat color. Obviously, Andy's iris actually has some coloration to it. There's some shape to it. So with this one, I'm going to go to the hypershade. I'm going to look in here for Andy's iris, which is this guy here. And then I'm going to hit the graph button, which is that. So this is all the stuff that goes into making Andy's iris look like Andy's iris. We don't care about any of this except for what gets connected to color. So right here, that's the one that gets connected to color. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to assign a new material. Andy iris. And then I'm just going to middle drag that ramp onto the color of Andy's iris. Okay? And all this is basically just procedural texture set up to make it look like an iris. So now it looks exactly like it did a second ago. I may want to adjust some of my specularity to this, so maybe I'll pull it down a little bit. Andy does have two eyes, so I have to make sure, obviously, that I grab the other one. Oops, let's get inside here. And assign the same materials to the other one. So there's Andy iris. There's Andy pupil. I'll grab both of these. These are just transparent, so if I just make a new material, and it's called a sclera. And I'll make this transmission, and I'll pull this up. So now it should be transparent. Now in Arnold, if I render this out, we'll see that it's not transparent. Every transparent item inside Arnold we have to click on. Come on. There we go. I have to go to the shape for it, go under Arnold, and say that it is not opaque. And now when I render this out, now it'll be transparent. So just remember to do that, otherwise, you know, it won't work. Andy's eyeballs, this one and that one, they also have some material connected to it. So I'm going to assign a new material. AI standard surface, Andy eyeball. And then I will go into my Hypershade and find the Andy Eyeball material. Now, it's right here, is Andy Eyeball Blend, that's the one. But if I go under Textures, I may be able to see it in here. There it is right there, I believe. Okay? But just to be safe, I'm going to click on this, click the graph button. Yep, it was just that ramp. So now I'm just going to go to the Andy Eyeball, go to the color, and just middle drag, whoopsie, that ramp on top of that. Okay. And then again, I'm kind of going through, checking it out, making sure it still looks good. Yep, that works. Now, if I get to the point where I don't know what I have left to texture, if I've grabbed everything, under here I can go to Edit, Delete, Unused. Anything that has not been assigned a material, or one of these materials that are not assigned to something, it'll delete it. So when I do that, I should see a lot of these go away. All of them didn't. There's still some here, but we'll see. I'm looking at the name of this. So this one here, as I hover over it, it says Andy Eyeball, parenthesis, AI Standard Surface. So that's one that I made. AI Standard Surface, I made that, I made that, I made that, I made that, I made that. Andy Cloth Proxy Lambert, I didn't make this, but that's fine, that can stay there. Andy Hair Color, or Hair Boy Color, is that's fine, I'm not going to change the hair color, or the hairstyle. Here's the girl's hair color. Here's the man's hair color. Alright, here's the teeth. So if I show Andy's teeth, obviously I want those to show up too. So I'm going to graph that out so I can see it. Now this might be tricky to get into to see like where his teeth are. If I go inside the mouth, you can see that this is like a pretty tight area, and where exactly are the teeth. I could open up the mouth, so I could turn on the face controls. There they are. And one of these opens up the mouth. Is it that one? Yes, that one. And I can grab the teeth this way. But there's another way that I could do that too that's a little bit simpler. If I right click on any of these and say select objects with material, it'll select anything that material is assigned to. So I just do that. Now I have the teeth selected, and you can see it's actually the teeth and the tongue in the top and the bottom of the mouth. Or sorry, not the tongue, the teeth and the top and the bottom that got selected. Then I'll assign the material. Then I will call this Andy Teeth. And then if I arrange my windows so, I can drag this onto my color. And probably pull the weight of this down some. It's better to have these a little bit more not shiny than too shiny. So I'm going to do the same thing with tongue. Right click and select the objects. Assign a new material. AI Standard Surface. And I know from this one that it is just a color. And I could even use my eyedropper and actually grab that color right there. Okay, so I'm going to edit, delete, unused again. And those go away. Okay, so these hair colors don't matter because I have the this woman's hair style for Andy, so I'm using that. If I switch to the boy one, I would assign the boy a different color, or the girl one or the man one a different color. Okay, so I'm fine using this hairstyle for that one. So I just want to take a step back. I want to render it again and verify that everything is looking good. Make sure I can see the pupils. Maybe I open the mouth and verify that that looks good. Yep, everything looks fine. Alright, cool. So now I'm going to save this as. Now if you didn't do this and you just skipped this lecture and you just went on to actually posing your characters, then you hit the render button and Andy turns out like a big mess like we saw at the beginning, you have to go back and do this again. And if you've set up all 3 of your poses, you have to do this to all 3 of your poses. So don't do that. Andy Shaders Setup. It does not like me to save it as an MB file. It wants me to save it as an MA file. So I will save it as an MA file. Andy shaders setup. There we go. Okay. So now the shader setup is one thing. That gets us just, when we hit the render button, it's going to look at least okay. The next thing we need to do is set up how we're going to animate Andy. Okay. When we set a key on this, when I grab Andy's foot and I move it here, and then I grab the hips and I pull it down, and then I twist it like this, and then I grab the hand and do whatever. I don't want to have to go back and grab each one of those items and set a key again, because that's incredibly ineffective. What I want to do is have everything kind of grouped into sets of where I'm going to be setting stuff. So when we do a walk cycle, we're going to focus on just the lower body, the legs, and the hips. When we do the walk cycle, we'll also focus on just the upper body and the arms, and then we'll focus on the head separate. So each one of these areas we focus separately. So I'm going to grab nothing at all, so I'm going to just deselect everything. And I'm going to go under my animation, go to key, and I'm going to make a character set. Now, Andy already has a character set, so before I make one, I'm going to delete this one. This is the one it comes with. It's not right because we don't know what's in it. We don't know if it has all the stuff. So I delete all the ones that are there. Okay? It's just a collection of attributes. So I'm going to create another character set. I will call this one Andy. I will leave it as is and say create. So now I get an Andy character set. Now I have to populate it with a sub character set. So I will have one called lower body. From channel box is fine. Nope. I really want something selected. All right. Do that. That must be a new thing, because I'm pretty sure I was able to do that before. All right. So it wants me to grab stuff. So I'm going to grab the knee controllers here. I'm going to grab their translates, and I'm going to say from channel box. Okay. So this creates a lower body sub character set. Now I'm going to go back to the Andy rig. I'm going to grab the elbow ones. And I'm going to add another sub character set for upper body. And then I'm going to grab this head. I'll grab the translates and rotates, and I'll call this one head. There we go. Okay. So that just creates them. I'm not sure why I had to select something. Last version of Maya I didn't, so whatever. But now I have to add everything else into it. So anything that I plan on animating, I want to add into that character set. Okay, so I know that when I animate Andy, the knees are going to move, so I need to add those in there. The feet obviously are going to move too, and any controls over here that I may be adjusting. Okay, so for the feet, translates and rotates for sure. I'm probably not going to be stretching or locking the mid, so I can not ignore those. I'll use the heel pivots. I'll use these three, and that should be it. Now, if they have the same attributes, left foot and right foot have the same attributes, so I can grab them all at the same time. I'm going to switch down here to my lower body, and then go to key, and then say add to character set. Okay, so now under lower body, here's all the stuff I've added so far. So that the idea is when I hit S to set a key, everything I have inside that set automatically gets a keyframe. So it locks all of those attributes in there. I don't need these in here. Those are, I'm not going to use those for this animation. I will use the hips. And for Andy, there's two controls. There's this one, and then there's that one. Now for this one, I want to grab that, because as Andy moves, as he walks, I want his whole body to move front and back, up and down, whatever. So I'm going to grab all of these. I'm still on lower body, and then I'm going to go to add to character set. So that's all the lower body stuff. If I go to upper body now, I'm going to add all the upper body stuff. So this one, translates and rotates, add to character set. Here's some spine controls. So I'm just shift clicking each one of those. They've got the rotates selected. I'm on upper body, add to character set. I'll grab the circles. Add that to the character set. Add that to the character set. Here's some collarbones. I'll add that. The elbow controls are already added. These wrist controls, I'll add those. These finger controls, and you can see how I'm just holding control and just dragging to add all of these. Now, when we do our character animations, we're probably not going to use all of these, but I still want them in there in case I need them. I also want to... Oops, there it is. Turn this off. Turn that off. And also add these into that character set. Oops. And I'm just hitting G to redo that adding to character set. Cool. So that's the upper body. And then finally I'll go to the head. And I'll grab everything that's pertinent to the head. So add that to the character set. Add this to the character set, which is already there. Add the eyes. There we go. And then I'll add in all of these. And not the geometry, just and this guy, what that is. Oh yeah, look at that one. So this control here just moves the eye. This one it does the same thing. That's weird. It looked like it did something different a second ago. So that's moving the eye pretty big. No, this one's locking it in. That's all it's doing. Okay, so the other one I can move a lot more. Alright, so by the time I'm done with this, all the head controls are in one. All the upper body controls are in another, and then all the lower body controls are in another. So that should be good. Let me double check. Yes, yes, yes. That's good there. These are good here. Yep. So now I'm going to save this as... Andy ready to pose. Okay, so now this one is ready to pose. So when we get into our actual posing, we get into our animation stuff, that's the one that we're going to use. That way when we go and we're starting to animate it, we will actually switch between each of these. So when we animate the lower body, we switch to lower body. We animate Andy going crazy with his lower body stuff, make sure it's perfect, then we do the upper body, then we do the head. And then we can actually create loops of all these things. We can't do that unless we have these character sets, okay? So we need those. Cool. So I'm going to save that. Now each of the characters will be exactly the same as far as what you're going to do. You're still going to assign Arnold shaders to them. You're still going to make character sets. Depending on the character you pick, they're going to have different features that you need to adjust. Homer may have different features than Mary, may have different features than Andy. I don't know why this is going white screen for so long. That's ridiculous. Here's the Homer one. Okay, if I look at all of Homer's materials, you'll see that each one of these is a blend. It's not an Arnold shader. So the same thing, I would have to grab these and assign that shader. If I click on Homer's skin here, you can see this is the yellow, this is yellow. So I would do the same thing. I would assign a new material, make it a standard surface, give it a yellow color, and take my specularity off. It's awfully dark yellow, but you know, we'd have to adjust that anyway. Oh, that's what I was going to show. When I did that, you can see when I grabbed his skin here. Come on. There we go. His beard is actually a different color. So when I assigned mine, it overwrote that. So that's where you may want to right click and then say select the object. That way it only selects his yellow skin and not the beard area. And then you can assign your material that way. Okay? And you can even do that with each one of these. Just grabbing each one, assigning a new material, then changing the color. Okay, he has no textures on him. Everything is pretty much just flat coloring. In this one, there are no character sets already baked in, so you don't have to worry about deleting them. You just simply create your first character set. Homer. And then you would go through and add your sub-character sets from there. Let's see if this one will let me do it. Lower body. That's weird. Oh, there it worked. If I click the bottom one, it lets me do it. Upper body. Right? And then it's just a matter of going through, ignore these ones. Lower body, grabbing all the lower body stuff, and then adding it. His are going to be different than Andy's. If you're unsure, use Andy because that's the one I just showed. I'll also leave up the other ones that I did previous semesters so you can see those as well. In case you want to use, I think I used Mr. Manhattan last semester, so that's another rig you could add. There we go. So same process, just grabbing them, adding them to the character set. Again, they're going to be in different spots. They may have different controls on them. Like on Homer, he has these little controls by his feet that lets you adjust his pant leg. So I would want to add those too, because if his pant leg intersects his foot, you want to be able to move that away from it. So I would add in each one of those as well. Cool. So that's how you're going to get your character rig set up so that you can use it. Once you have the rig set up, then you're going to look for poses. Any of the poses we use for this have to be real people. Photography. And they have to be an action pose. Think of basically if you just saw a silhouette of the character, that should be enough, okay? If it's something like this, that's like perfect. There's a lot of movement here. We can see the whole body. We can really use this as a great resource and reference for what we want our character to be in. A bad pose would be like that. That's pretty boring. Okay, even though we can see that they're standing there, that's a pretty boring pose for our character to be in. Find something like this. You know, again, a lot of these are kind of boring. He's standing here, but you can't see his feet, so you don't know which way his feet are turned. Like that one's pretty cool. No. That's weird. That's cool. Okay. And then that's as far as you should take it until we actually go through the actual posing part of this, of how to pose the character. Okay, so you can go through and set up the rig. You can set up the rig, and then you can find your images. And then when we come back from break, I'll go through how to set up the actual pose of the character. Okay, you're going to need 3 of these, so try to find 3 good poses. And again, they have to be real people, and if you have someone like Homer, as great as Homer is, there's no way that he is going to be able to get into a pose like this. His body proportions are just not there to get into this pose. And that's fine, we can still use that. We're still going to use it as a reference for how we get Homer, you know, into a pose like that. But there's no way he's going to look like that. Okay. Cool. Questions on that yet?